Hello and welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where we're going to be taking a look at the brand new V5 version of Santa Cruz Bronson. Now, this is fresh for 2025. It features mixed wheel sizes with a 29er up front, 27.5 out back, and I've got some mixed feelings about it as this bike aims to tackle versatility and increase its downhill prowess. So in this video, we're going to go into those features and designs. We'll check out what it weighs, and if this is interesting to you, hit subscribe and let's check this out. Talking Santa Cruz Bronson. Now, the Santa Cruz Bronson is their dual trail bike that features 160 millimeters of front suspension travel through this Fox fork and 150 millimeters of VPP suspension out back. Now, this bike itself continues to get more capable, which means it's kind of an interesting spot as this begins to get a little more flavorful like the Nomad than it does its little brother, the Tallboy. In Santa Cruz's lineup, their mixed wheel size, all mountain near enduro bike, the Bronson, also has a 29er sibling, the Hightower, that features the same front triangle but a little bit different rear end to accommodate the 29-inch wheels and spans the gap of being a bike that's going to be able to climb good enough to be able to be fun and descend at a hell of a clip. Now, one of the things that they wanted to change up on this bike in getting more versatility was the way the suspension was performing. The VPP suspension has always had a bit of an S shape to the way that its suspension works, and the first third of the travel has a rising rate in the leverage ratio, while then it begins to soften out right towards the end of the travel where it ramps back up, providing bottom out support. And the virtual pivot point suspension accomplishes this by utilizing two counter rotating links. So we've got our VPP link inside of here, which rotates in an opposite direction as the swing arm system. And what they did for the new V5 version is they essentially moved the shock down and forward compared to the last. Now, the reason they did that is by doing that, it was able to re-up that internal link that we can see there and reduce the amount of anti-squat that comes through. Now, anti-squat has pluses and minuses. What that's really relating to you is basically the amount of pedal feedback or kickback that comes through the suspension. The more anti-squat, it means the more relation of what's happening with the rear wheel to what's happening with the suspension, meaning as you put power into the pedals, it might try to elongate and push down the rear end of the bike, which does make it feel like it's accelerating better. But the flip side is on square edge hard hits, the challenge is that that suspension becomes less responsive. And so Santa Cruz wanted to still keep this bike able to pedal well, but increase its responsiveness and reduce the pedal kickback. So when you hit a really strong bump, you don't have your pedals kind of trying to push up against you. Those square edge hits, you're going to have more suspension deflection while also pedaling well. The other thing that they changed up is they really changed up the front end of the bike to support better downhill capability. It's still rocking the 160 millimeters up front, but the front end is now slacker with 63.9 degree head tube angle in low and 64.2 in high. And what I mean by high and low is on that link for the suspension, you can adjust where the shock mounts in, up and down, which raises the bottom bracket, steepens the head tube angle, or flip it to low, which will drop the bottom bracket and then slacken the head tube. Of course, the other thing that's changed out back is the rear end of this bike has gotten longer. So much so that it's going to be around 10 millimeters longer than the prior version. The rear end also has different lengths depending on different frame sizes, which this bike comes in with a pretty hefty front end at about 480 millimeters, about 5 millimeters longer in a size large. That also brings it in similar to what the Santa Cruz Nomad, the enduro version of this bike, has, and they've pulled away from the extra small. Now, the bike does come in two different frame variants. This being the C version means it's C carbon, It's the heavier but more affordable carbon fiber frame. It's also the only Bronson frame that's going to feature internal cable routing for mechanical derailleurs. That's right, when you go to the lighter weight CC, away goes the internal cable routing. It is wireless only. Kind of wild to see. Also has a threaded bottom bracket, some ISCG mounts for your bash guard, what have you. And then above the rear shock mount, we do have Santa Cruz's glove box, as they call it. If I can get this puppy open, it's much easier to open when you have your water bottle on there. But yeah, underneath there, it's got spot to be able to put in your 2 frame bags. You slide one up, slide one down, and this door that I was having trouble getting off, well, you mount your water bottle onto it, and so the cage is on there, makes it pretty darn easy to get in. And this being the CS build means that we're going to come with a fairly basic part spec, which is kind of surprising on a bike that comes in at $58.99. But for that, you've got your GX 1x12 drivetrain, so thumb button for an easier gear, thumb button up front for a harder gear, single ring up front through that GX crankset, GX mechanical rear derailleur, and a 10 to 50 tooth rear cassette. So this is the 500% range, not the lunar 52 tooth. That makes sense with a 27.5 rear wheel, but you do get a really nice one-up components dropper post. There we go. And that dropper post is going to be operated with a one-up components lever as well. So give that a good pull. Up the dropper post comes, and stopping is going to be via the SRAM DB8 brakes. These are 4-piston calipers on the front and the rear, and they definitely fall onto the range of being more, let's call it enduro than trail bike. Well, anyways, now that we've taken a look at the features and designs of this bike, it's time we throw it on a scale and find out what it weighs. And the actual weight of the Santa Cruz Bronson V5 in a size large comes in and weighs 33.88 pounds. Thanks for joining me to check out the 2025 Santa Cruz Bronson V5. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts on this bike down in the comment section below. Let me know if this is your dream or future trail bike, or would you rather check out something else? While you're at it, hit subscribe and browse the channel to see more videos like this to check out as well.